Hello guys, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This is MD Saiful Islam, an assistant teacher of Kono Jadusha High School, Raninagar, Nogan, and you are most welcome in my Saiful English Academy. Dear viewers, those students who are very weak in English, who think English as a hard subject still today, who can't pronounce any words accurately, who can do spelling any words correctly, who can't know how to change narration from active to passive, who don't know how to change the passive narration, who are unable to change voice from active to passive, who don't know the rules of right from a verb, who don't know how to make a tag question, how to make various kinds of sentence, how to select various kinds of tenses, how to select various kinds of parts of it in the midst of a words, and there are some students who don't know how to write a paragraph, how to write a composition, how to write an email, how to write an informal letter, and some students, and there are some students in our country. We can see that some students they have many grammatical problem. After all, the students who can learn English for their financial problem, my dear viewers, only for them I want to dedicate my class so that they can remove all kinds of weakness of English watching my video classes. My dear viewers, before starting my first class, I want to say something to you, my dear learners. Hence, you know that I'm a new teacher or a new teacher in YouTube channel, and I am trying to use English conversation in the midst of my class from beginning to end. So, my viewers, at first, I want to apologize to you if you can notice a fault in the midst of my classes, in the midst of my lecture, in the midst of my speaking and writing side. Please excuse me, my dear viewers, and pray to Allah for me so that I can serve you. I can create various kinds of video class, nice video class for you throughout my life. So viewers, no late, take no time. Take a look at the board and try to understand, my dear learners. Hope that you have understood clearly. So, viewers, take a look at the board and try to understand. Let's take a look at the board and try to understand. So, what the themes, what the topics I want to make you understand, my dear viewer. Hence, today's lesson in my first lesson to upload, to create a new video class. So, my viewers, I want to start my class with a sentence. An easy topics to you. Of course, you know that, my dear viewers. Take a look at the board and try to understand, my dear viewers. Before starting my class, I want to throw some question to you. I want to throw some question to you, my dear learners. My first question to you is that what's a sentence? What's a sentence, my dear question? Of course, I know that you know the answer of this question, but I can add something in the midst of you, my dear learners. What's a sentence? The definition of a sentence is that sentence is a group of words which makes a complete sense. Can you, if we say this statement in Bengali version, we can say this way: পরিপূর্ণ অর্থ প্রকাশের জন্য যে শব্দগুলো আমরা ব্যবহার করি সেই শব্দগুলোর সমষ্টিকে আমরা সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য বলতে পারি। পরিপূর্ণ অর্থ প্রকাশের জন্য যে শব্দ সমষ্টি আমরা ব্যবহার করি সেই শব্দ সমষ্টিকে আমরা কি বলতে পারি, মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স? সেন্টেন্স বলতে পারি, মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স। Of course, you have understood clearly, my dear learners. My question to you: how many categories of sentence according to meaning, how many categories of a sentence according to meaning, my dear learners? We can say in our English grammar, according to meaning, there are 5 categories of sentence. We can say, take a look at the board and try to understand. Number 1, assertive sentence. Number 1, assertive sentence. And number 2, interrogative sentence. Number two, interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence. Number three, imperative sentence. Imperative sentence. Number four, optative sentence. Optative sentence. Optative sentence. And number five, exclamatory sentence. Exclamatory sentence. Exclamatory sentence. Hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. My third question to you, my dear learners, why should we learn or identify a sentence? Why should we learn or like identify a sentence, my dear learners? Of course, you know that sentence is an important topic in our English grammar. Sentence is an important topic in our English grammar. According to my mind, my dear learners, if a student don't know a sentence, the definition of a sentence, identify a sentence, he will have to face step by step in our English grammar. And for this reason, we will have to learn a sentence. My dear learners, according to the sequence of our English grammar, we will have to learn or identify a sentence for the flowing for the flowing region, the below region, such as if we learn or identify a sentence, we can change narration from direct to indirect. Number one. Number two, if we don't learn or identify a sentence, we can't change voice from active to passive. Number two, my dear learners. Number one, about changing narration. Number two, about changing voice. Number three, my dear learners, according to my mind, if we don't learn or identify sentence, we can't form various kinds of statement or sentence, and we can't form a tag question. We can form a tag question, and various kinds of region. In this various kinds of region, we'll have to learn or a sentence of that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now, my question to you, my dear learners, how can you definite or select a sentence? How can you definite or select a sentence, my dear learners? Then now we will discuss about definition and selection of various kinds of sentence, my dear learners. Of course, you know that according to meaning, we can classify sentence into five ways. Number one, assertive sentence. Assertive sentence means বর্ণনামূলক বাক্য। বর্ণনামূলক বাক্য। My dear learners, if we want to define an assertive sentence, we can say in this way, যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো কিছু সম্পর্কে বর্ণনা করা বোঝায়, কোনো কিছু সম্পর্কে বর্ণনা করা বোঝায়, and we can say in English version in this way, my dear learners, an assertive sentence is a sentence which makes a statement or assertion. An assertive sentence is a sentence which makes a statement or assertion. Hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now, my question to you: how many categories of assertive sentence? My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. We can classify an assertive sentence into two ways. Number one, affirmative sentence, and number two, negative sentence. Affirmative sentence means habodok bako, and negative sentence means nabodok bako, my dear learners. Now we will learn about the definition of affirmative and negative sentence. Now my question to you, my dear learners, what's an affirmative sentence? Affirmative sentence. We can say in this way, an affirmative sentence is a sentence which makes the sense of affirmation, which makes the sense of affirmation. And negative sentence, we can say the definition of negative sentence in this way, that, my dear learners, a negative sentence is a sentence which makes the sense of negation, which makes the sense of negation. Thank you very much, my dear learners. My question to you: how can we select an assertive sentence? My dear learners, we can select assertive sentence only one way. Only one way. So at first, starting word, subject, and finally with the notes of full stop. My dear learners, we can say in this way: if any statement or sentence is started with any kinds of subject, and finally ended with the notes of full stop, such kinds of statement we can call assertive sentence. Now look at the following example. Rohim is a good boy. Number one, Rohim is not a that boy. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand what kinds of words, categories of sentences is this. Both sentences starting word with subject and finally ended with the notes of full stop. But my dear learners, now we'll have to select which sentence is affirmative and which sentence is negative. I can say, my dear learners, first example is of course an affirmative sentence because this statement is started with subject and makes the sense of affirmation and finally ended with the notes of full stop. But now my question to you, how this statement is a negative sentence because this statement is started with subject and finally ended notes of full stop, but this statement makes the sense of negation. For this reason, we can say, my dear learners, this statement, of course, negative sentence. And now, my question to you. Now my question to you, my dear learners, what's similarity and dissimilarity between affirmative sentence and negative sentence? You'll have to mind that, my dear learners, similarity of affirmative and negative sentence is that both sentences started with subject and finally ended with the notes of full stop. But this similarity between two sentences is that affirmative sentence makes the sense of affirmation and negative sentence makes the sense of negation. This is the dissimilarity between two sentences. Of that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now we will chill about interrogative sentence. So, can you say what's means of interrogative sentence? Of course, you can reply my question. Means Rusno Bodok Bako. That means in this way we can say the definition of interrogative sentence in this way, my dear learners. যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো কিছু সম্পর্কে প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞাসা করা বোঝায়, যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো কিছু সম্পর্কে প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞাসা করা বোঝায়, যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো কিছু সম্পর্কে প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞাসা করা বোঝায়. And if we can say in English version, we can say in this way, an interrogative sentence is the sentence which inquires a question. An interrogative sentence is the sentence which inquires that প্রশ্ন বোধক বাক্য. Now my question to you, my dear learners, what's the definition of an interrogative sentence? My dear learners, of course you know that, my dear learners, we know that an interrogative sentence is the sentence which inquires a question. An interrogative sentence is the sentence which inquires a questions. That means যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞাসা করা হয়, যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা কোনো প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞাসা করা হয়, মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার, সেই সেন্টেন্সকে আমরা কি বলতে পারবো বন্ধুরা? অবশ্যই ইন্টারোগেটিভ সেন্টেন্স বলতে পারবো. থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ, মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স. My question to you, how can we select interrogative sentence? Of course we know that, my dear learners, we can select an interrogative sentence in two ways. Number one, auxiliary verb. Starting word auxiliary verb and finally with the notes of question mark. Starting word auxiliary verb and finally ended with the notes of question mark, my dear learners. And number two, starting word w is question and finally ended with the notes of question mark, my dear learners. Now my question to you, what's an auxiliary verb? My dear learners, we can say the definition of an auxiliary verb in this way. An auxiliary verb is the verb which helps a principal verb, to form a tense or mode or voice, to form tense or mood or voice. Of course, it's called a helping verb or a to be verb or a to be verb. My dear learners, অর্থাৎ যে ভার্বগুলো কোনো প্রিন্সিপাল ভার্বকে সাহায্য করে, এবং টেন্স গঠনে সাহায্য করে, ভয়েস গঠনে সাহায্য করে, সেই ধরনের ভার্বগুলোকে আমরা অক্সিলারি ভার্ব বলতে পারবো বন্ধুরা। আর এই অক্সিলারি ভার্বের আরও দুটো নাম আছে, একটা হচ্ছে হেল্পিং ভার্ব আর একটা হচ্ছে টু বি ভার্ব। অফকোর্স you know that my dear learners, now my question to you, how many categories of an auxiliary verb? We can know that, my dear learners, we can see 24 kinds of to be verb in our English grammar, such as can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must, need, dare, ought to, used to. Okay, my dear learners, do, does, did, have, has, had, am, is, are, was, were. Such kinds of 24 kinds of auxiliary verb you can see our English grammar. And now my question to you, what's WS question? WS question? We can see in this way, my dear learners, WS question is the word which is formed of W and each letters and is used in a sentence or statement at first for making an interrogative sentence. অর্থাৎ যে ওয়ার্ডগুলো ডব্লিউ এবং এইচ দ্বারা গঠিত এবং যেগুলো কোনো প্রশ্নবোধক বাক্য তৈরি করতে ব্যবহৃত হয়। ইটস এ নটেবল থিং দ্যাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু মাইন্ড টু দ্যাট, মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স। যখন ডব্লিউএস কোশ্চেন দ্বারা কাউকে কোনো প্রশ্ন করা হয়, ইয়েস অথবা নোতে কোনো অ্যান্সার পাওয়া যাবে না। Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. Now my question to, how many categories of WS question? WS question কতটি? অবশ্যই তোমরা জানো বন্ধুরা। My dear learners, according to my mind, we can see 9 WS question in our English grammar, such as who, what, which, why, when, where, whom, whose, how. Of course, you know that, my dear learners. And if any sentence started with such kinds of WS word and finally ended with the notes of question mark, of course, such kinds of statement, of course, an interrogative sentence. Of that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Now look at the board and try to understand the examples. Number 1 example: are you learning English now? Number 2, why are you learning English? My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Select what categories of. And according to my mind, first statement is of course an imperative sentence, because this statement is starting with auxiliary verb. And according to the selection way of an interrogative sentence, of course, such kinds of statement, of course, an interrogative sentence, because it is said at the time of selecting of an interrogative sentence, you are told that, my dear learners, if any sentence or statement is started with any kinds of to be verb and finally ended with the notes of question mark, of course, an interrogative sentence. Now my question to my dear learners, why are you learning English? Which categories of sentence? Of course, this sentence is also an interrogative sentence, because I can give the explanation about this statement. This statement or sentence is started with WS question. Of that you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners, thank you very much. Now my question to you, what's the meanings of imperative sentence? Of course, অনুজ্ঞা সূচক বাক্য. Now my question to you, my dear learners, what the definition of an imperative sentence? We can say in this way, my dear learners, about the definition of an imperative sentence. And imperative sentence is the sentence, which expresses order, advice, request, prohibition, proposal, etc. An imperative sentence is the sentence which expresses order, advice, request, prohibition, proposal, etc. That means যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা আদেশ, উপদেশ, অনুরোধ, নিষেধ, প্রস্তাব ইত্যাদি প্রকাশ করা বোঝাবে। যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা আদেশ, উপদেশ, অনুরোধ, নিষেধ, প্রস্তাব ইত্যাদি প্রকাশ করা বোঝাবে। আর এই ধরনের সেন্টেন্সকে আমরা কি বলতে পারবো বন্ধুরা? অবশ্যই অনুজ্ঞাসূচক অথবা ইম্পারেটিভ সেন্টেন্স বলতে পারবো। Hope that you have understood clearly. Now my question to you, my dear learners, how can we select an imperative sentence? Mind it, my dear learners. According to my end, we can select an imperative sentence into 7 ways. Number one, verb, starting word verb, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number two, starting word do not, oblique don't, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word never, and finally with the notes of full stop. Starting word let us, oblique let's, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word let plus object, except us, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word always, finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word or mixing word please, oblique, kindly, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. My dear learners, of that you know about this oil. My dear learners, now try to remind and try to recollect in your memory. My dear learners, you can see in this oil, we can select an imperative sentence into 7 ways. Number one, starting word verb and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word verb and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word verb and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Number two, starting word do not, oblique don't. Do not, oblique don't. And finally ended with the notes of full stop. And starting word do not, oblique don't, 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 and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number three, my dear learners, starting word never, starting word never, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Number four, starting word let us, oblique let's, let us, oblique let's, let us, oblique let's, finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number five, starting word let plus object, except us, let plus object, except us, let plus object, except us, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number six, starting word all age, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And number seven, starting word or mixing word please, oblique kindly, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. And now we will see some example. So take a look at the board, stay connected with me, and take a look at the board and try to understand. Examples. Number one, go out now. Number two, do not tell a lie. Number three, never mix with bad boys. Number four, let us go to learn English. Number five, let me learn English. Number six, always obey the parents. And number seven, please teach me English. teach me English. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. At first sentence, we can say starting word verb. Number two, starting word don't. Number three, starting word never. So number four, starting word let us. Number five, starting word let plus object, except us. And number six, starting word always. And number seven, starting word phrase. And all cases of all sentences. In the case of all sentences, we can say finally ended with the notes of full stop. So, dear viewers, such kinds of categories of sentence we can call gauge or assume of an imperative sentence. Of that, you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Okay, my dear learners, now we'll discuss about optative sentence. Can you say what's means of optative sentence? Of course, প্রার্থনামূলক বাক্য প্রার্থনামূলক বাক্য অর্থাৎ যে সেন্টেন্স দ্বারা কোনো প্রার্থনা করা বোঝায়, যে সেন্টেন্স দ্বারা কোনো প্রার্থনা করা বোঝায় সেই সেন্টেন্সকে আমরা কি বলতে পারবো বন্ধুরা? অবশ্যই প্রার্থনামূলক বলতে পারবো। নাও মাই কোশ্চেন টু হোয়াটস an imperative sentence, what's an optative sentence, sorry, optative sentence. We can say in this way, an optative sentence is a sentence which expresses wish or fear. An optative sentence is a sentence which expresses a wish or fear, a wish or fear. Of that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, now my question to you: how can we select an optative sentence? My dear learners, we can select an optative sentence only two ways. Number one, starting word may, and number two, starting word live, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. My dear learners, of course, you have understood clearly. My dear learners, then we'll have to mind in this way. We can select an optative sentence in these two ways. Number one, any case of statement is started with may and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Of course, optative sentence. And number two, if any sentence is started with long live and finally ended with the notes of full stop, of course, an optative sentence. Now, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand the example. May you be happy. Number two, long live Bangladesh. My dear learners, try to identify these two sentences. First sentence, starting word may and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Of course, I can say this statement is of course an optative sentence. And number two more example, starting word long live and finally ended with the notes of full stop. This categories of sentence, if we notice or can in our English grammar, of course we can call gauge or assume such kinds of statement of course an optative sentence. My dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, now we'll speak about exclamatory sentence or means Bangla version আবেগ সূচক আবেগ সূচক বাক্য. So, my dear learners, how can you definite an exclamatory sentence? We can say in this way, my dear learners, an exclamatory sentence is the sentence. An exclamatory sentence is the sentence which expresses strong feeling or strong feeling or emotion. My dear learners, an exclamatory sentence is a sentence which expresses strong feeling or emotion. That means যে সেন্টেন্স বা বাক্য দ্বারা মনের আবেগ প্রকাশ করা বোঝায়, অর্থাৎ হর্ষ, বিষাদ, আনন্দ, দুঃখ এবং মনের আবেগ প্রকাশ করা বোঝায়। হর্ষ, বিষাদ, আনন্দ, দুঃখ এবং মনের আবেগ প্রকাশ করা বোঝায় সেই সেন্টেন্সকে আমরা এক্সক্লেমেটরি সেন্টেন্স বলতে পারবো। মাই ডিয়ার লার্নার্স, hope that you have understood clearly. Now my question to you, my dear learners, how many ways we can select an exclamatory sentence? Of course, I hope that of course you know the answer of this question. My my dear viewers. So now take a look at the board and try to understand how many ways we can select an exclamatory sentence, my dear viewers. I can say at least 11 ways. At least 11 ways we can select an exclamatory sentence. So, my dear viewers, try to note instantly. Try to note instantly. Number one, starting word how plus adjective, and finally the notes of exclamation. The notes of exclamation. Number two, word a oblique n plus adjective, and finally ended with the notes of exclamation. Number three, starting word would, that, and finally ended with the notes of exclamation. Starting word had, and finally ended with the notes of exclamation. And number five, starting word if, and finally ended with the notes of exclamation. My dear viewers, take a look at the board and try to understand. Already I have written five words of selection of an exclamatory sentence. And try to note and try to save in your memory, my dear learners. Number one, starting word how plus adjective. Starting word have plus adjective, and finally ended with the notes of exclamation. Have plus adjective. Starting word have plus adjective. Have plus adjective. Have plus adjective. And number two, what a oblique n plus adjective. What a oblique n plus adjective. What a oblique n plus adjective. And finally ended with the notes of exclamation. And number three, starting word would that. Starting word would that. Starting word would that. Starting word would that. Number four, starting word had. Starting word had. Starting word had. And number five, starting word if. Starting word if. Starting word if. So hope that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Take a look at the board and try to understand the next topics. Starting word alas. Starting word hurrah. Starting word oh. Starting word ah. Starting word bravo. 1 2 3 4 5, and last number starting word 5 5. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So, starting word ls, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, next starting word hurraho, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Next starting word starting word o, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. And next starting word and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word bravo, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word starting word five, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. My dear learners, now we'll see some example of that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. How nice the bird is. What a big river the Poda is. Number three, WOULD. Would that I were a bird. Number four, had I been a king. Number 5, if I were a president. Alas, I am undone. Next, hooray, we on the game. Hooray, we on the game. Next, number 7. Oh, the bird is fine. Next, next number 9. Ah, the man is 4. 10. Bravo, the little boy stood first in the exam. Number 11. 5. 5. You are so bad. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. First sentence it started with how plus adjective and finally ended with the notes of explanation. Okay, my dear learners. Second sentence is started what plus adjective. What plus adjective. Then would that, then had, then if, then alas, then hurrah, then oh, bravo, five. My dear learners, if we can see or notice various kinds of sentences like this in our English grammar, we can call such kinds of statement, of course, an exclamatory sentence. Of course, you know, you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Hope that you understood clearly, my dear learners. Today's class, I am trying to make you understand about the definition, about the classification and purpose of a sentence, my dear learners. Last, before ending my class, I want to say you, my dear learners, hence I am a new teacher in YouTube channel, and this is my first class. I am starting with sentence in my first class, and I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, this topic sentence is very important for you, because if you don't identify any kinds of statement or sentence, you can't change voice, you can't change narration, and you can't form take question and various kinds of topics in our English grammar, and you will have to face step by step in our English grammar. So my dear learners, you should learn a sentence accurately and correctly, my dear learners. In my first class, today's class, I don't want to learn them, my dear learners. No more today. May Allah bless you. Come to see again. Assalamu alaikum.